Hey, aren't you in the Justice League? Also, crazy Nazi scientists and puppets! DC Universe's Doom Patrol, Season 1, Episode 3, Review and Breakdown. Hey y'all, it's your Twisted Girl next door here, and I know my background looks very different because as I film this, I am not in my regular filming home in Los Angeles. I am in Jersey in my mom's house. So doing the real deal, the things we do in order to review. So yeah, we're not even gonna ignore the fact that I'm in a different position. We're just gonna push through. We're gonna push through. Okay, so I am doing a review and breakdown of DC Universe's Doom Patrol Season 1, Episode 3. And if you're new here, this is how it goes. I do my overall thoughts of the episode, the happenings, as in what happened in the episode, ship talk, because I do love talking about relationships, predictions, because even if I'm wrong, I want to take a guess, and also because this series is based off of a comic book series, or more so comic book characters, I want to do comic book comparisons as well. And I've got a real special one for this particular episode dealing with that final scene because, oh yeah, that was a total Easter egg. So stick around for that talk. Okay, so overall, this episode was definitely another episode of character introspection and character revelations, at least for the viewers, when it came to getting to know these characters. And once again, not as much plot moving forward. Or more so, you kind of think the plot's about to move forward, but then it doesn't because they still find themselves at square one a lot of the time. And I don't want to say necessarily that that's a negative. I want to say that I feel like this show, or at least they're trying to do in the first half of the season so far, it appears to me that maybe the whole point is for us, the viewers, to get to know these characters on a deeper level before we get to the bigger overarching plot. It's sort of maybe an origin story in a way of how they become the cohesive Doom Patrol, because in most of this episode it's still this kind of mixed match, them not really wanting to be heroes, and their main thing is just trying to get the chief back, not necessarily like save mankind or anything like that. So in that vein, and I don't like to always keep bringing up like a comparison show like Titans when it comes to DC Universe, but just like Titans has been so far a origin story, like a whole season of an origin story and then some, I feel like maybe they're kind of doing the same thing with Doom Patrol. So in that sense, when you accept it like that, it's not so much that this show or this episode in particular was slow and nothing happened. It's more so what the happening is what's going on with the characters. But that aside, it was a very somber episode, and they are no closer to finding the chief. The search for the chief. Okay, so this was pretty much the big plot, or more so this road trip to Paraguay was pretty much so much stuff going on within it. And once again, like I was saying in my overall thoughts, that it was very much somewhat the bonding of the characters and the introspection of the characters. So what we got here was a evil Nazi scientist, sort of the origin story told through puppetry of how Mr. Nobody came to be, as his real name is Eric Morton, and more so how Chief played a part in that. I guess Chief kind of came in and killed that Dr. Nazi scientist, and stopped, I guess, Mr. Nobody from fully becoming who he was, aiming to be, but he still ended up getting powers, but he's like all fragmented and stuff. So I don't know if Mr. Nobody necessarily wants revenge from Chief. We still got no exact reasoning as to why Mr. Nobody was after Chief, because clearly the Nazi scientist, although he doesn't like Chief, didn't seem to be going after him before Jane killed him. He was just basically chilling, trying to make other people metas, I guess, or still doing his experiments, because he became fragmented and somehow a part of other people and, something like that. So that was going on. We got in the midst of this Cyborg trying to be a leader, or being a leader more so, and his dad being very toxic and manipulative when it came to trying to control Cyborg's actions. And within that, Cyborg's frustrations, we got a lot of DC Easter egg references to the Justice League, and that was really funny, and I really enjoyed that. And other references like Batman and things of that nature when it came to the connection of Cyborg. And so, within that, we got a few things of Cyborg trying to kind of figure out what he wants to do with his life, trying to figure out if his dad had something to do when it came to his mentality and if everything's on the up and up. And in the end of it all, they didn't find Chief, and they all were sort of just bickering with each other. We saw a little bit more that the revelation that Jane, I guess, or at least it seemed from what the mad scientist was saying, that Jane isn't even the original personality of the body she's in. It seems like Jane is another personality, or more so the dominant personality, but she's not the main personality, which I thought was something of a revelation. And we got a little bit closer to what caused Jane to become fragmented like she was. Although we've been getting that a lot about Jane throughout, the first 3 episodes. There's been a lot of focus on her, to be honest. So yeah, they killed the scientist, and then that guy who had went to the lab with them basically became a monster lizard person, which I'll talk about when it comes to the comic book comparison a little later, which was pretty funny and interesting, and I kind of wasn't expecting them to do that, and they totally did it. So yeah, that was the interesting part. I think one of the things about Doom Patrol, I guess, as a comic book series is that although they're part of the DC universe and stuff, I think more people know, like, Batman and Cyborg to a way. That's probably why they brought him onto the series, in terms of name recognition and stuff. And so what you have is, this team and these characters who are they're very cool. I think they all have very cool powers, and I really like their personalities. They're not as, and you can disagree with me if you want, as mainstream knowledgeable, or more so they haven't had, this is like their first live action version of themselves, while you have characters like Cyborg and Batman and Superman and all of them who are like on their 3rd to 15th live action cartoon version of themselves in various capacities. So, audiences now are so used to these characters, and so we're kind of familiar with them, and there's that. So then you have the Doom Patrol, where this is like their first live action, their first anything. I maybe they were in a cartoon series. I don't think so, though. So you kind of have to reintroduce the audience. You have to get the audience very familiar with who these characters are. And I think that's what's happening with these plot lines. So what you're getting in this A plot is a lot of their dynamics of who they are and their inner turmoil and their inner workings, more than you're getting an overarching plot. We're all superheroes and watch us be superheroes. So that's what I got from this A plot, because they didn't achieve anything. And I think if you focus on the fact that they didn't achieve anything, and it's kind of like, man, are they even worth watching? That's the wrong way to go about it. I think you really have to go about getting to the point where where the journey is them eventually getting to be a cohesive team and being, more than just causing damage and havoc everywhere they go, but actually doing progressive stuff. And then the ending scene with like the scientists and stuff, and like Jane killing all those people, and then Cliff killing all those people, it got real violent real quick. Because this show is so dark comedy and everything, and it's a little in your face, but it hasn't been as violent thus far, I think. And so that scene was like, whoa, yeah, this is gritty. This is edgy. Robot Man kind of went off, and he catches himself to the point where he's like, I shouldn't contact my daughter, because what am I? I'm kind of a monster at this point, which was, you saw that was kind of his feeling. So Larry and his flashbacks. So in the midst of this A plot, the reason why I separated out the Larry situation, because he was on the trip as well, but what they did is that they focused a lot more on his flashbacks. No one else really got flashbacks like that except Larry, so I figured it would be something of a separate, it felt like sort of the B plot, and him going through not appreciating or caring for the negative energy inside of him. And so, what most of the episode made you think was that, all this happened because, this energy collided with his plane, and that is what caused everything and all the damage. And then what you sort of get at the end was that in reality, it was kind of Larry's personality that got him to where he was, living this double life, kind of stringing along his wife and his lover, John, and then also kind of pushing John away when John actually wanted to stay with them. His wife left, rightly so, but then he goes into the machine and, he makes him face himself to realize, hey, guess what? It's your fault that you're alone. It's your fault that you feel the way you do, because this might have happened to you, but the actions you had leading up to this moment and the things you chose to decide after the moment happened was all you, boo. That was all you. And I feel like that's what that energy was telling him. And at first I thought the energy was kind of being a jerk, like making the bus break down and all that other stuff. But then I got it. I was like, yeah, the energy is kind of like, yo, you've been blaming me for years and it's not my fault what you're going through, like, at all. I will say for Larry, nothing was resolved though. And that's the thing when you have these episodes that are introspective for characters. Like, I felt like the pilot episode with Robot Man, there was something that was sort of resolved, right? He got the resolve to want to live, to want to lift his legs and stuff in order to honor the memory of his family that he lost. Okay, that made sense. And then with Cyborg, he decides to stay in the second episode because he wants to prove to himself that he can stand on his own. So there's a resolve there. Not everything's resolved completely, but there's a resolve there. There's a little bit of a bookmark end. And with Larry in this episode, because he didn't voice it out loud, because he didn't actually talk to anybody about it, and there was no significant scene of him accepting something, it just kind of felt like he went through all of that just to end up depressed again. So it was kind of like we went through all of that for what exactly? Larry and John. I included this because they were a ship. They were totally a ship in this episode. Now, I don't know what happened to John. I'm guessing he's probably dead now, mainly because all that happened to Larry back in the 1950s, 1960s, right? So it's like 2019 now. So I would imagine that, Larry would actually, in his real age, Larry's probably like 80, 90 something, and John is 2, and he already pushed him away, so that was sad. Unless something happened to him and somehow he was able to stay along, who knows? But it was a sad thing. Do I think that was the love of Larry's life? I don't think so. I think it was maybe a symbol of something that he let slip through his fingers instead of really going for the love that, like, his wife had told him when she left him, like, I hope you find the love you deserve. But the thing is, I'm not so sure it was John, because this is the thing. He was cheating on his wife constantly. It wasn't like, oh, I have been fighting these urges for so long and then I met John. I mean, we saw from, the conversation with his wife when he came in late night that he did this a lot. So more so, he probably needs to get to a point where he loves himself, because even before the, accident, it seemed like he was going for some type of acknowledgement, some type of accomplishment, that no matter who he was with, he was a one-track mind when it came to his mission. Rita and Vic. All right, so last episode, I mentioned them, and I only mentioned them briefly because of that ending scene where it was a really quick thing where he knocked on her door. And I was like, oh, this is probably nothing, but let me just, acknowledge it anyway. Okay. I think this episode pretty much showed that they are totally trying to make that something. I don't know if it's going to be overtly romantic, but they are clearly putting them in a position where they are the two that are left with each other. Like, that happened. They made it so Jane and Robot Man and Larry went off to Paraguay early because Jane's alter ego Fit decided she wanted to or could suddenly warp them somewhere else. And so that left, Rita and Victor, and it was so interesting because they had a heart-to-heart, right? They had this moment, and they're sitting there, and they're eating, and it's not overtly romantic at all, but it's clear that they are making it so that these two people can sit and talk to each other, and that he is getting closer to her, and I'm not sure where they're going with this, but I think it'll be interesting, and I'm here for it. I actually am. I think that would be interesting. I think it'll be a whole kind of dynamic because Rita has this issue with her body. Cyborg has these issues with his body. Where's that gonna go, right? Okay, so I finally have some predictions. Like, for these past 2 episodes, I've been like, I have no idea where this is going. So my semi-predictions are, I do not trust Victor's dad. I think they're making him shady in this version of Cyborg, and he's not being on the up and up about the mother's death or anything like that. So I think that will be revealed, maybe not soon, but I think that's coming. And clearly Chief stole something from the evil scientist that maybe Mr. Nobody's trying to get back, and we're not sure what that is exactly. But I do think that's a thing, and it will be revealed this season. Okay, so comic book talk. Basically, I just want to talk about that final scene, which I know if you're not familiar with the comics, you'd probably be like, what is that? What is the point of that? What is that just stepped out? Because we met this character early on in the episode. He was a little silly. He was really engrossed in the whole situation with the evil scientist. He was a very funny character, right? And so he comes out of the thing, and in the midst of everything, and he has like a dinosaur on his shoulder. He's sort of a plant. Just a lot of stuff's going on with his body, right? And he has a maniacal laugh. So it's kind of like, I think most of us were probably like, what is that? And why did we need this final scene? And so I would like to say it is my guess that this character is the animal, vegetable, mammal man. I totally got his name wrong. Animal, vegetable, mineral man. Yes. That is his actual name in the comic books. And I'm guessing, yes, oh my gosh, right? Just like Donkeyverse, this show, oh my gosh, this show. But I'm guessing that's this character. Totally different origin story though, because in the comic books, he's like a, biologist, scientist of some sort, and he has something against Chief, and he lures Doom Patrol over one day, and basically an experiment goes wrong, and it turns him into a being that can basically change forms into various beings that are both plant-based, animal-based, and so on and so forth. And so he's kind of a villain, or he is definitely a villain. And so, yes, that is the character, I'm pretty sure, because I think they made it very clear in making it so that you saw that he could change into a variety of things. It's just a totally different origin story. So that's my guess, that's my bid, that's my comic book comparison, that last scene was a throw to this villain of animal, vegetable, mineral man. Yes, that's actually the name. Okay, so what did you think of Season 1, Episode 3 of DC Universe's Doom Patrol? Do you think the show is on the right path? Do you think there's a little too much character introspection and not enough plot-driven things going on? Do you think it's kind of been great? Do you think it's kind of been bad? Let me know. Comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. And also, be sure to subscribe so that you're the first to know when I post my videos of all things horror, dark fantasy, and dark superhero. Thanks for watching. Let's get creepy together.